right.
Oh,
Oh, hello.
hello. I know it's not your birthday yet, but you had a big birthday celebration, so tell me all about it.
Oh, it was so nice. My three of my sons were here with their special people, and
Daughter,
huh,
your daughter.
and my daughter, and it was just perfect. At because everybody had all the stories that they hadn't told for a long
Yep.
time, and then somebody was there to contradict it. It was different, you know. For them it was different,
Yeah.
it was just a full almost what for Carl it was 5 days, I think, and he just left this morning, and John's wife Bobby just left this morning, and it was just one of those precious times in our lives, and we'll
That,
just tuck this one away
that's so,
to
and so were there, somebody was just saying today is their birthday. Happy
oh
birthday. Age range. Were there great grandkids
well,
or like who?
at the party, there were Helene's grandkids, Parker and Taylor Rose, and so she's 3,
Okay.
and he's 4, 5,
Okay.
and so they were running around. But it was at the country club, not my country, but Montosha's country club, and we had you know friends and people, but my nephew, my brother Carl's son Henry, who is a retired professor from Johns Hopkins, he carried on my brother's work with um, um, medicine. What was let they had working with medicine around the world,
World
and
Health Organization.
huh?
World Health Organization.
Yes, the World Health Organization. Anyway, he just retired this year, so he came out for my birthday, and so we talked about what Carl and I did, and what he. It was just really, really a wonderful time.
Oh, that is so great.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's so good to have these connections, because he remembers my parents, of course, because he was little when they were alive, but they were very much part of his life. So, uh, you know, these are really things that we could connect with forever.
Yes. Somebody's just asking, are you both familiar with Dr. Layla Denmark, the 114-year-old doctor who continued practicing until she was 100 and no. So is it Dr. Layla in Denmark or is Denmark her last name? I'm asking to this person. Curious. Have you ever heard of that person?
No, no,
Yeah, that's cool.
that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. Wow. So good.
So, see,
Well,
in Denmark, huh?
God will,
See what a small world it is?
God willing, we'll still be here every Tuesday at,
Well, and
at
Katie, you started the role
well,
this because you were the first one who I did an Instagram or a podcast or anything with. How
oh,
long ago was that? 4 years?
I think it's been 3. So this person is saying Denmark was her last name. She was from Georgia, USA.
Oh, oh.
Okay, I'll have to look her up. That's so cool. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's great. Amazing. Amazing. There's a lot of amazing people doing amazing
Yeah,
things.
yeah, amazing grace.
Yes, yes, indeed. So you were telling me just a few minutes ago before we got on here that you were having somebody saying happy birthday from Toronto, Ontario, Canada to you, Dr. Gladys. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
thank you.
you were talking to someone from Romania.
I was a lady from Romania, and we were just having the best conversation. And when I mentioned the Village for Living Medicine, she said, I have it. So she said 3 years ago, she bought land in Romania. I don't know if she lived in Romania before or not, but she has no accent, so I don't know. Anyway, I and she has, we have goats and we have deer, and people come and camp on our property, and some people have built on the, you know, and so she's already started, but she didn't know it was a Village for Living Medicine, but she does now.
It's so great. And how many other living medicine communities are around the world that you don't know of because, you know, they just haven't called it that, or, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, or they just started it, or it's something that uh, is unnamed yet, you know,
Right.
or it hasn't taken its first breath yet, or whatever. But hers did today. You know,
On,
when we started talking, she said, "That's what it is."
I feel a little sheepish to ask you this because I feel like I should know this, but on your website, do you have a like a actual definition for the Village for Living Medicine?
Well, we should. I I I thought we did,
Yeah.
John. I If we don't, we will work on that too.
You know,
But we
just,
certainly have a template for it, and it can be done. So, you know, things happen so fast.
yeah, I mean, I'm just curious if and I'll look on there after we're done speaking, but you know, for people like this woman from Romania,
Right.
if you have this sort of uh, a definition, for lack of a better word, I don't know what else to say, or a description
Yeah. Yeah.
of,
Well, we do. And we have a we were working with a group from Zanzibar, aren't we, John?
Yes.
Yeah. And they have you know, so they have created this, and they've been working at it for a while. They didn't know what to call it, I think, but they do now. And so, you know, it's happening around the world.
yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a way to, I don't know what I'm even trying to say other than linking it back to you when all these people are creating different villages for living medicine, that somehow it's an affiliate of your Village for Living Medicine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We make it a global
Right,
community.
right.
And yeah, and so that's in process too, you know. So yes, I don't know.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, because also just talking about, you know, where I'm moving my practice to my home and I'm going to have a home office. So my Village for Living Medicine won't necessarily be in my one little room office, but it will be virtual, and that I'm connected to a lot of people in the community where I send people.
Absolutely.
So
You know, the beauty of this is, Katie, that each one of us who is working with this concept can create the kind of village that we would dream of, you
mm,
know, and that our community would dream of. I can't dream of having a community here where there's an ocean,
right, right,
you know, but you can.
right, right. Yeah, so it that is exciting to be able to think about it in that way of how we can create that for people. And
Because
I
you know what?
mhm,
It'll change the world.
absolutely, absolutely.
Because I truly believe that we're at a point now where we as human beings are reaching for our true humanity. we can begin to see that that's a possibility. You know, that we as human beings really are truly human beings. And we're the ones who have free will and choice and all of that. And no other living thing has the same thing that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're responsible for Mother Earth and for the creatures who don't have free will. If we mistreat them, we're mistreating ourselves, and it's stupid.
Right. Right. I do want to just point out my sister Casey, who you know quite well. She
Uh-huh.
posted that doctor's Wikipedia page in the chat for everybody. So if anybody wants to look up that 114-year-old doctor, scroll back up through the chat, and there's a link to it there.
Wow.
Yeah, Casey's pretty quick that way.
She's great. She spent time in our village on Lafayette.
She did, and she spent time going to Asilomar with you guys in the summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying is we're all reaching for true humanity. The thing that came up for me this week also is that reminding myself that we are spiritual beings having a physical relationship with the earth. Like we're, we just get so, I was joking with John when he answered the phone and, said, well, who am I really? Like, well, who is me? Like I say it's me, but who is the me that says I'm me? Like, I'm just this spiritual being having a physical experience on this planet. And
you manifested in your mother's womb, and then you took on the manifestation of who you are and became Katie. Just like we did with this Instagram that we did.
right.
It was, you manifested it for I don't know how long, and then we manifested it.
Yes, we did. And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
but I think in that reaching the true humanity, that is such an integral piece of it is the spiritual aspect of it. And whatever that means to anybody, I'm not, no religion here, but just, whatever that means to somebody to reach into their own spirituality and find the divineness within all of us.
It's what my son Bob, and I found out when I was doing a conference at his Human Potential Center years ago, and there was a woman from Wales there, and Bob was doing his presentation, and he said, I come from a weird family. So when she got up to do her presentation, she said, well, I'm from Wales, and let me tell you what we think of as weird. She said, you folks, when you greet each other in the morning, you say good morning and all that. She said, we don't say that. We say, how's your weird? Because the weird within them, their think of what they think of, is that inner core, that inner aspect of their being that is the true human aspect of who they are, of how they're connected with the femifestation and manifestation and the earth and all of that. It's our connection with our true being as humans.
So would you say, like, since you were a small child growing up in India, I mean, your parents, they were both doctors.
Yeah.
But spirituality and religion, in a sense, was a big part of your upbringing, was it not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jesus was my friend,
Yeah, and which
And
is
we lived with Hindus, and we lived with Mohammedans, and we lived with Jains, and we lived with people of all sorts of religions. And so um, it was, and my roommate in high school at Woodstock was a Parsi. And the Parsis are a group of people who are the ancient Persians, and they live in Bombay, and they have a whole community and have for many, many, many years. And you know, so Mara Mystery was my roommate in college, in high school.
so you've been exposed to many, many different spiritual traditions.
Yes, it's wonderful. You know, to me, whatever we can conceive of as our divine presence within which we live is our own uh, uh, responsibility and our own joy.
And so, as a young person, I remember you having a story about Jesus coming to you, and you now just saying that Jesus, was your friend. So, were you, is that your connection? Like, did you, even as a young person, always feel like that inner core, you had that connection to your divinity through that?
Well, I did, but it is also through other people. It's like Sadhu Sundar Singh was this, actually, he was what was his religion? Not a Jain. Anyway, he came from a very influential family of people that had, oh, I'll get it. Anyway, he found out about the Christian religion, and he really uh, took on the his interpretation of what Jesus was talking about and what the Christian religion was to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he maintained the Indian culture in the way he took it on. In other words, he became a sadhu and traveled with in samples with the Indian garb of the saffron robes,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't. He just did it the way the Indian sadhus did it, and in his Christian presentation of what he understood. And so we'd be out in camp, and all of a sudden I remember Aya coming in and saying, "Sadhu, hey, well, Sadhu is coming." He used to come to our camp for almost every year and stay a while. And we kids absolutely adored him because he was our friend, as Sadhu Sundar, and he'd tell us stories, and we'd laugh and just have a really good time. And then in the I think it was 1928, he disappeared because every summer he used to go up into Tibet and take his message to the people of Tibet. And he'd spend his summer in Tibet. And then that summer he disappeared, and nobody knew where he was, or we had no way of tracing him. So my dad and Peter Riddle's dad took on the responsibility of finding out what happened to him. So they went on the trip that Sundar Singh had gone on, and followed his footsteps. They'd go to a place and find out that Sundar Singh had been here, and then go on and go on. And finally, that just disappeared. So they thought he probably was caught up in the um, cholera epidemic that was going on during that time and probably died going up there and just kind of disappeared. However, Peter Riddle, who was my friend here in the United States, uh, uh, his father and my father are the two that went um, to, and his father was from New Zealand, but a missionary, and they were both missionaries. So they went looking for Sundar, so they didn't find him. But Peter Riddle was my friend from Woodstock, from when we were in school together, and came here to the States and found Alice, and they got married, and their children were with our children. But before that, since they were from New Zealand, and Peter was in the British Army during the war. He was a lieutenant in the British Army, and uh, he, he told me this story while he was, we were talking one day. He was Peter had a break from the uh, when he was in the army. I guess I don't know what they call it, but time a leave.
Right.
So he had a leave, and he went up into Tibet, trying to follow where his father and my dad had gone, and so on. And he could do it because he climbed the mountains around there like we did. And he came to a place where there was an old man sitting in front of a cave. And when Peter told me this while he was here, after he was married and all of that. But he told me that he came up to a place where there was um, an old man sitting in front of a cave. And when Peter came up there, this old man said to him, I've been waiting a long time for you. And so Peter sat down with him, and Peter said, and I lost 2 days. He said, I sat there and talked to him for 2 days, and he said, I have no memory of what we talked about. I didn't know that the 2 days were gone until I went back to his army post and found out he'd been gone 2 days. Now, you know, that you may call that woo woo, you may call it fiction, you may call it anything. But in Peter's life and my life, it was real because our fathers went looking for Sadhu Sundar Singh and didn't find him.
Hmm.
And yet Peter comes along as a young lieutenant in the British Army,
Right.
and he finds this person who Peter and I both think was Sundar Singh.
Wow.
So our we know not how our beings continue if there's a job for them. And see what Sundar Singh had was a message that he took to and from the missionaries who brought the story of Jesus, or I don't know who he got it, but anyway, when he was a young man, he accepted this mission of traveling the world as a Hindu, as an Indian sadhu. And there are books that are written about him, Sadhu Sundar Singh.
Wow. Wow.
If anybody wants to look that up, Peter Riddle's dad wrote one, but there were other, because he did travel around the world and and talk to large crowds of people.
Wow. I don't. How do you spell that?
SAD, HU,
Yeah.
Sadhu Sundar, SUNDAR,
Okay.
Singh, SINGH.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. Wow, that's an amazing story. I love that. I love that. Yeah.
I
That's
do
so
too, because for me, Peter was very real. You
yeah.
know, I knew him since we were little kids. And so here he tells me this when he's a grown person teaching school in Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow. Wow. So that's so going back to my original question of, connecting to that inner divinity. And I know that we all have our own way to do that. And, whether that's through prayer or mantra or whatever practices we have. Um, and so I just was curious for you. Like, I know that you pray and I know that you sing hymns, which connects you to that inner essence of you. Is that correct?
Right, right. Yeah, and I watch my dreams,
Right.
and uh, it's been uh, amazing for me how my dreams and the dreams of my kids and the dreams, have helped us. And how my mother appeared in a dream just a couple of weeks ago to my
Oh,
nephew,
right.
dad. You know, so the whole idea of being a Danielle came through
Right.
what we talked about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And so, in that finding our true humanity, do you feel like that is a really crucial part of it? Is being in touch with our own spiritual side, our own inner divinity?
How are we going to know anything about it if we don't?
Mm,
If we don't understand or try to work with our own true humanity,
mm, mm.
it's a question.
Right. Right. And I think that it can be tricky for people because life is busy, life is challenging. There's just so much going on that it's easy to stay distracted to the outside world and what's happening all around us, that we're distracted from the sitting still and going in.
But that's true. And the sad thing is that it's hard to believe. Peter's story about meeting, so they're saying, is hard for anybody to believe unless they've even thought about it, thought about how you could contact uh, a loved one who has moved on, or any any way that would appear to you as a reality. And it will never appear as a reality if you don't think it is possible.
Right. 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 Yeah, I love that part. I mean, it feels like magic to me. Even though it's this inner world that I have that doesn't make sense to anybody else necessarily, it still feels very much like magic to me. And it makes me excited to be alive.
Well, and Katie, as we're talking about this, it makes the fact that I, in high school, had a really dear friend named Mara Mystery, who was a Parsi.
Mm,
You know, now that nobody can deny. But I also had at the same time Peter Riddle as a friend, because our families were friends and so on. So these are our realities in different dimensions and different ideologies and different cultural philosophies and so on, but they manifest through people that we have learned to love. You know, I mean, Peter. It wasn't that he was my boyfriend or anything, but we grew up together and we were just really good friends.
Yeah. You know, sort of along these lines, but a little bit different. I was talking to my son, my oldest son, Tyler, on the way to work today. I was giving him a ride, and he was telling me that the musician, her name is Pink, that at all of her concerts now, she's donating, she's giving out the books that are being banned in Florida. She's just handing these books
Wow.
out that come to her shows.
Wow.
And that's so cool. And so we started talking about that. And he was talking about, he loves history. And he was saying how, you know, certain parts of the country, you know, they don't tell the history of the slaves. They don't tell the history of the Nazis and the genocide,
Right.
you know, that
Right.
so we were just talking about how people, I said, well, then it's so interesting because you can't really blame the people that grow up in that environment because they never were exposed to it. They weren't even exposed to the humanity that got us to where we are today. They're being blinded by the reality of who we are as humans and what we're capable of and just what makes us who we are. I don't know, it was just kind of interesting. So when I think about that, finding the true humanity, I think it can be harder for people, some people more than others, because they have a very limited view of what they're exposed to as a young person.
Well, Katie, think about what we've been talking about. If you've never experienced love, how do you know what love is?
Mm.
You know, the boys who are going in with guns and shooting up at people, if they've never experienced love in their family or in their lives or with a pet or with whatever, how what they experience is what they see on TV. They have a hero, and a hero dies, but the next day he's dead, the next day he's there, and so on. How do they know anything about death? And if they don't know, if they've not been loved, how do they know anything about love? It's that reality of our true humanity working with each other, no matter what dimension
Mm-hmm.
it's on. But I truly believe that our divine essence is reaching for that. This lady I talked to in Romania says that her little girl talks to the trees and she's 5 years old. And she comes in and tells her mother what the trees have said to her.
I love that.
You know, it's that kind of a accepting the fact that little people, and let me tell you, sometimes ancient people know some things that need to be shared.
That is true. That is true.
So,
Wow.
so the fact that when a person moves into dementia, that we medicate them into foolishness, I think is a terrible thing. I don't know if I told this story, but I have this friend who is a neurologist, and he's just a great guy. I've known him forever in this area, but he's still working at helping with the residents at the U of A Medical School, and so he had the option of going to a patient's room a while back, and he was to meet a resident there, And so he went up to the room, and the resident was waiting there at the door. And he said to her, "Well, let's go in." And she says, "Oh, we don't need to go in there." And he said, "What do you mean?" She says, he has Alzheimer's. He won't know anything." And my friend said to her, "Now wait just a minute. Do you understand? We have two people in that room. One is a man who has Alzheimer's, and the other is his wife. Now, we are going in there to help him, but we help him through her because she will understand what we're saying. And because she loves him, she will carry it over to him, and they'll be able to work with this, whether he understands it like we think he should
Right.
or not is irrelevant. And also, we have to touch them. So it's this reclaiming that real connection that we need to be able to understand who we truly are.
Yes, and just in that story alone, just even going in, even if you didn't say anything,
Right.
going in, putting your hand on the person's leg or shoulder, or just that human touch
Or
that allows you to feel.
or even the possibility of going in and touching them and calling them by their name.
Right, right.
Think of that connection.
Yeah. So beautiful. So beautiful. So,
Yeah.
so on another note, I want to ask you, any updates on your stem cell?
No, but I'm still here. I think they've taken uh, their positions in places where it's been needed and made buddies with my own genetic stem cells and settled down in because I don't feel any of the little tingle tangle that I've felt for quite a while, actually.
And
That's
the gain that you got in your vision, has that stayed?
uh, yes, yes,
The ability, because you had said that you had an increase in the ability to discern color.
right. That's still there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So the things that have manifested have remained, but they're just kind of like, well, that's normal.
Right.
So that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that is great.
But when I'm thinking about this Peter Riddle story and a sadhu, so they're saying, how much different is that than me talking to you right now? You know, I can see you, I can see your face, I can talk to you, but you're
right.
not here.
Oh,
we're finished?
right. Right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So why do we think that it'd be so completely wackadoodle, maybe sinful or whatever you want to call it, that he could have talked to Sadhu Sundar Singh uh, in his very presence,
right.
because we're talking about energy,
Right.
and Sundar Singh's energy was there, and Peter knew it because Peter loved Sundar Singh like we all did,
right.
and they spent 2 days together.
That is.
Now you know,
I love,
how many we've spent 3 years doing this.
and I am so grateful for that.
And could we have explained this 10 years ago to each other? No.
Right. Right. Right.
So I don't think we should be afraid of AI. I think that we need to understand that it's there. And if we You know, it's not the modality that's right or wrong. It's how it's used. If it's used with love and understanding, it's a good thing. If it's used with hatred or misunderstanding, it's a bad thing.
I think that's where I get a little nervous about it is the intention behind it.
Well, how do we know? Well, you know,
Right.
so if I think this is AI, and
Yeah.
I love it, you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how it all keeps going.
how we're going to see. Here it is. It's manifesting right now. We have to see how it's going to manifest
Right.
and how we're going to deal with it when it manifests.
Right. 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 Exactly. Oh, I love this. I love our conversations.
I do too.
Well, sadly, I have to say goodbye and get ready for my afternoon of patience.
You have to manifest.
I have to manifest and be of service, which I know I love to do. So, and as do you, and you are still of service to so many, which is just such a beautiful thing.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so, so happy you had such a lovely
Oh,
birthday.
it was wonderful. Yeah.
Well, you get the whole month because your birthday is until the end of the month anyway.
I know. The very last day.
Right. All right.
All right.
Love you so much.
Love
Thank
you
so much
too.
for being on
Bye-bye.
our conversation and part of our Village for Living Medicine.
Right.
And, yeah, and part of the community that we have created to share Dr. Gladys's amazing wisdom. So I will see you next week.
All right. Love you all.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.